guys, welcome back to my channel. So like I said in my last video, I wanted to do just a singular book review on The Paris Hours by Alex George. I just think it deserves a whole video because I loved it that much. So I'll go into a little bit more of the plot line. This will include no spoilers, so you're free to watch this if you have not read this book yet. This takes place in Paris in 1927, so this is after World War I, and this is kind of when an upheaval of a lot of arts and music and writing started happening, and Paris was kind of flourishing. This follows 4 different characters. It goes into each character's past a little bit, but it mainly focuses on the present, which follows each character throughout one day, the same 24 hours. And you see how all of their stories intertwine. So I will talk about each character a little bit. I will say that the first few chapters, it is kind of confusing, and I wish that I had kind of written it down, who each character was and kind of a little bit about their story. It is kind of hard to keep up with in the beginning, but I promise that you will get the hang of things. It also does have each one of their names and kind of a little bit about their story in the inside flap, and so I used that kind of as a reference as I was going on. But it follows 3 men and 1 woman. So the woman's name is Camille. She has a daughter and a husband, and it kind of goes into her backstory. She kind of followed her husband into Paris. She was from a small town in France. She kind of didn't know what to do with her life, and so she became kind of a housemaid for this famous author. And it goes into her story. Eventually she ends up losing something really important that belonged to this author, and so in the present 24 hours she is looking for that item, and it leads her to crazy places and to do crazy things. So that is Camille's story. Next is Guillaume. I looked up how to say that name. Most of these names are pretty French, and so I had to look up. Guillaume. So he wakes up super hungover in the present day. Basically, he's just always had money problems. It kind of goes into his backstory, which I'm not going to talk about because that may be a spoiler. But in the present day, he wakes up hungover and in a lot of debt. He borrowed some money, and so throughout this 24 hours, he is just trying to find this money so that he's not literally murdered. He is very much a struggling artist in Paris. He's a painter, and he's just not doing well at all. And so he's trying to sell certain paintings to get money and just running all over town, and that leads him to some crazy things as well. So that's Guillaume. And then next is Soren, and so he is an Armenian refugee. So it goes into his background kind of with the war in Armenia and how he fled to France to find refuge. We open up on his 24 hours. He is a puppet master, a puppeteer, whatever you want to call it. And he's kind of cleaning each puppet and getting ready for his puppet show later on in the day, and so you follow him going through this puppet show. I kind of liked his story the most. His, I felt stood out the most to me, and it was the saddest story. He's very much a loner. He has no family or friends in France. He barely speaks French. He, speaks a different language, Armenian, and he's just very to himself, very lonely. His story broke my heart. So that's Soren. And then our last character is Jean-Paul. He went through World War I as well, and basically he's obsessed with America, and he is an author. And so on this present day, he wakes up and goes and interviews. He's constantly interviewing Americans that live in France because he very much wants to move to America. He interviews a few Americans, and one American asks, why aren't you leaving and go to America? Leave France if you want to so bad. But he is clung to Paris for a specific reason. He is looking for someone day after day that, again, I won't go into because that may be a spoiler as well. But he finds himself, again, doing some crazy things, and that's kind of how all 4 characters meet up, but I won't go into that because that ruins the whole thing. That's what you're waiting for the whole book. So I absolutely loved this book. I ate it up. I literally read this in one sitting, It's so fast-paced towards the end. Like, my eyes could not read fast enough. I just wanted to know how they all intertwine. That is my favorite type of like plot line, because, you know, throughout reading you're trying to find these little details that may lead to how each character is in the other character's life, and you're just always guessing. There are some like curveballs thrown in here that lead you off track. I just have so much respect for authors who can do that, because I know it's probably not easy. And again, I loved the setting. So I feel like most novels about Paris, you know, focus on the glitz and glam, like the Eiffel Tower, famous people, that kind of stuff. But this really focused on kind of like the back streets of Paris and just like these 4 ordinary people. And so I looked up kind of about Alex. He did live in Paris for a few years growing up. He grew up on these back streets, and he wanted to focus on that more so than like famous, you know, places and people, which I really, really appreciated, because I learned more about Paris than other novels, and just shows that like these were ordinary people going through really crazy stuff. I thought it was so well done. It's so intricate. How each story intertwines will blow your mind. Again, the last like maybe 20 pages, you finally see how they all intersect. I don't even have the words. Just please read this book. I did not think I would love it as much as I did. I kind of gambled on this book and gave it a shot, and I'm so happy that I did. If you are kind of in a reading slump and kind of need something to pick up reading again, I highly recommend this, because it makes you realize like why you love reading so much. It is so well done. I think it just really shows you how good writing can be, because I was kind of in a slump. I've kind of been reading some really, really good books, but none that really stick out, and this just really stuck out for me. So if you're kind of in a reading slump, pick this up. It is so fast-paced. Honestly, it's kind of like a thriller at the end, which, you know, caught me by surprise, but like your heart is racing at the end. Amazing. Highly, highly recommend Paris Hours. If you pick it up, let me know what you think about it down below. I would love to hear you guys' reactions and opinions. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!